The 2022 Formula One season was supposed to be the year when the new generation of F1 cars, which is something that a lot of fans were eagerly waiting for, was supposed to become far more raceable, easier to follow, and thus give fans closer wheel-to-wheel racing on the circuits. Now, to be fair to the regulations, it has actually worked out very well in that regard. We have seen an improvement in both following and overtaking through the season, but there has been one man who stood head and shoulders above the rest of the Formula One pack in the 2022 season. It is, of course, this man, the two-time world champion, Max Verstappen. Now, Verstappen has, to be fair, followed up a rather controversial 2021 title win with an absolutely dominant title win in 2022, and so dominant has been his run this year that he's actually broken the records of two people who, for many people, are considered among the greatest of all time when it comes to Formula One drivers. Now, we're going to get into that record, analyze that a little bit, but also look at why it is the 2022 has been such a strong season for Max Verstappen and what it is that he can actually look forward to doing in the future. Now, with Verstappen, you note for a fact that this record that he's broken, which is of course that for the most wins in a season, it's a pretty big record because again, it's a record that has stood 18 years up until this point. And the thing that's worth noting is, if you're wondering why there's an asterisk near Verstappen's 14 race wins, it's because this season is still not finished. There's still 2 more races to go, which means that by the end, that number could be at least up to, that would be at most at 16. The people's whose record he broke, well, Michael Schumacher, 2004, dominant here when he won his last title with Ferrari. He took 13 race wins that year. Sebastian Vettel, 2013, also dominant here, especially towards the second half where he won a record 9 straight races. That too, very dominant here for Vettel. He took 13 wins. He couldn't get past Schumacher's record. And remember, Schumacher was in fact Vettel's idol. He only managed to equal Schumacher's record. Verstappen, on the other hand, has surpassed it, and as I mentioned, still 2 more races to go. You have the race in Brazil, and then you have the season finale at Abu Dhabi. Both of those could potentially be, 2 more race wins for Verstappen. So this record could be 16 by the time the season comes to an end. It actually caps off what has been a very dominant season for Verstappen, and perhaps more importantly, adds to his list of accolades, because again, Verstappen has been in the habit of making and breaking new records since the time he even made it to Formula One. Why do I say that? Well, this right here is a very small list of the number of accolades that Verstappen has held since the time he broke into the world of F1. And bear in mind that when he broke into the world of F1, he was so young that he didn't actually have his road driving license. You heard that right. He didn't have a license to drive road cars, but he was already in Formula One, the pinnacle of open wheel racing. That's just how much of a prodigious talent he was. He's gone on to fulfill all of that potential and then some. He was the youngest to start a race when he did so in 2015. He was only 16 years old, the youngest driver to score points in a race. He was then the youngest to win a race all the way back in 2016. You'd remember that race. It was the Spanish Grand Prix where Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg took each other out. Max Verstappen was making his debut for Red Bull in that particular race. He had been racing for Toro Rosso up until that point, but had been promoted to the team after they decided to demote Danny Kvyat and put in Verstappen in his place. First race start for Red Bull, first race win, and thus also his first podium finish, which both came in the same race. He's also the youngest driver to get the Grand Slam. Now, if you're wondering what the Grand Slam is, it basically means when you take pole position, win the race, lead every lap, and then also finish with the fastest point on the given day. He's done that. He has the record for the most podiums in a season, which he did last year in 2021. He claimed 18 podiums, which is quite frankly stunning when you think about just the amount of consistency that he put in, even keeping aside the controversial race finish at Abu Dhabi. He also has the most number of points in a season, which again is a record that is very much ongoing. This year has been the year that he's collected the most points, and as I've said, there's at least 52 more points on offer for Mr. Verstappen at this point. As I said, he's someone who does have a history of making and breaking records, and 2022 has actually been the year that he's actually proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is F1's new final boss. He is the man to beat. He is the gold standard. If you remember, 2022, he didn't have the greatest of starts to the year. There were reliability issues in that Red Bull. Ferrari made a very, very strong start to the season. In fact, of the first 3 races that were raced, 2 of them were won by Ferrari, and it was only 1 that Verstappen won. So even beyond that, however, he stuck to it. The team also worked hard to get over, the kind of reliability issues that the car was facing. And then, since those first 3 races, he's won 13 of the last 17 races that have been held. 13 out of 17. That is absolute madness. And then to make things better, the last 9 races that have been taking place in this Formula 1 season, 8 of them have been won by Verstappen. 8 of them have been won by Verstappen. Since the summer break of this year, whatever race has taken place has been won by a Red Bull, and the only race which Verstappen didn't win was the Singapore Grand Prix, where Checo took a victory, and it was a pretty rainy, wet race, so you tend to get a little crazy with the results. But beyond that, this really has been the season where it's been Max Verstappen on one side and pretty much everyone else on the other. Yes, even Charles Leclerc falls towards the other side because his title tilt only lasted as far as Austria officially, because remember, he won the Austrian Grand Prix, he hasn't won a race since then. His crashing out at the French Grand Prix, which even Verstappen admitted was a time that he knew, or he believed that the title was all but over, it was his. That was the moment when it pretty much went off the rails for Ferrari. There are other moments, of course, we could do another video on that, and I probably will, but for now, the focus has to be on this man, Max Verstappen. He's already sealed 2 world titles, and both of the years where he's actually been up there for the fight. And given his age, one actually cannot put it beyond him to actually get at least a few more before he calls it a day. But it is also worth noting that Red Bull have mastered these new regulations better than almost anyone else. Other teams are surely going to play catch up. I'm sure Ferrari will want another crack at it next year. Mercedes would also want a crack, given the kind of disappointing season they've had in 2022. And there are a lot of young drivers on the grid who'd be only too eager to knock this man off his perch. As of now, however, it's definitely his perch to be seated on, and it really is just Max Verstappen's world as far as Formula 1 is concerned, with the other drivers just really living in it. But that's just how I feel about it. You can let me know how you feel about this entire run of dominance by Verstappen in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and tap that bell icon so you know when it is we're uploading a new video or going live for you guys. Then you can go ahead and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well. And don't forget to download the AajTak app. Thank you all for joining us. As always, I've been Shane Rice. I hope to see you with us through the day. But for now, goodbye.